Do you have a 7.3 Powerstroke with an oil leak that is running down into the valley or covering the top of your water pump? Nuts and bolts with Tone here, guys. Today I have a 2001 Ford F-250 with a 7.3 Powerstroke. Now this one's got an oil leak at the front of the engine, at the front of the timing cover area, and into the valley. Now what this one is, it is the high pressure pump reservoir, which is about this tall. There's a little lid on it. There's a main section about this long. Then there's a gasket. So in this one, it's very distinct that it's leaking from there. You can see it right above the water pump. The water pump's getting covered in oil. It's leaking down the sides and it's running down into the valley. So I'm going to show you how to pull that off and reseal that. But before we do, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and hit the bell. You get notified of all my future content, which you definitely don't want to miss. All right, let's go get started.
So you got an H-pop reservoir right here, and this is the reservoir, and this one is leaking. If yours is leaking like that, or you need to replace your gear, I'm going to show you how to do that. So first thing you need to do is go ahead and take this cover off here, the plastic cover. You need to unclip your heater hose, and we're going to need to take this bracket off here. Now, you can do this many ways. One way you can do it is you can take off the AC compressor and take off this bracket here and give yourself more room. You can do it without it. You're going to need to take this plug out here and suck the oil out because this thing is full of oil. You're going to need to take off your compressor manifold here. You're going to have some 5/16 hose clamps down on the boots, one on each side. What I do is I take off the clamp on the lower part of the boot on one side and the upper part of the boot on the other side. I'm replacing the boots on this one, so it doesn't matter. But you're going to have a 10 milli like this going to your heater, and then you're going to have a spacer. And then you're going to have a ground. You got to take that off. You're going to have a couple connectors, and you're going to have a couple vacuum lines. And then you got one 5/16 hose clamp right here, and that's it. And the manifold comes out. So the plug's going to be a 3/16 Allen, and you're going to have an O-ring on there. It's going to look like that. You're going to take it out. You're going to put a hose in here, and I'm just using an evacuator here. And we're just going to suck this oil out, because if you don't, it's going to all run out in the valley and make a big fat mess. I usually don't even drain this. I usually just use 5,000 rags and soak it up. But this one here, I'm going to go ahead and drain it. So once you get that drained, go ahead and put your plug back in. You're going to disconnect this connector, and you're going to disconnect this connector right here. So then what we're going to do is you want to take an air nozzle and blow all of this off, blow all the dirt away. Because once you open this up, this goes straight down with nothing but oil. So I'm going to be doing injectors also. So I'm going to go ahead and pull the compressor off and just take this bracket off just to make it easy. Because down here you got a exhaust back pressure valve, exhaust back pressure tube you have to disconnect because it goes to the front of the gear on the high pressure pump. So I just pull out the tensioner. You got a 13 mil on the tensioner. And then you got 4 bolts here, and the whole bracket comes out. You got 4 10s for the AC, and 2 connectors. So get that off, and then now look at all the room we got. And now we can really clean this up real good, which is what I wanted. Part of the reason I took that off was so I could clean up all of that when I'm all done. So let's get an air nozzle, blow all this off, and blow all this off because we have to detach the fuel filter housing from the reservoir. Got to get the bolts out, that bolt into it. So you're going to need a T30 for these 4 right here, those 2, and right there. You're going to have to unbolt the fuel bowl and put a pry bar and pry the fuel bowl over a little bit so you can get these 2 Torx out. They're kind of underneath the lip of the fuel bowl. So you're going to take off your back pressure sensor here. You're going to have a 14 milli and a 16 milli to get this nut off right here. And then this is bolted to the cover. So you're going to go ahead and unbolt that and get it off of there. Because we need to get this bolt out right here. So you're going to have 2 8 millis that are going to connect this like that. Let's go ahead and take this off. This is the cover for your high pressure pump gear nut. So you don't have to remove this coolant hose. I did this because I already drained the coolant because I'm doing an oil cooler. But once you take those two bolts out right there with their 213s, you can just push this over with the hand and then take the Torx out right there like that. You can get these two Torx out and get your front ones out. And then you're going to take the rest of these bolts out. Oh, there's two more Torx right here. So let's get all that out and get this cover off. Keep track of where your studs go because your studs are for that cover that goes over. So use a mat, cardboard, whatever you want to do. But you can see I got them laid out like that. So now that we've got this, we can go ahead and pop this cover off. Just be careful that you don't damage anything.
Now, if you do need to take the gear out for your high pressure pump, so what you would need to do is take this reservoir off just like we did. The only thing you would need to do different is you got to take the two bolts out of the front, pull the cover off of the front. You got to take the nut off of the front of the pump, take the bolts out of the pump in the back, and pop the pump through. And then once the reservoir's off, then you can pull the gear out. But you got to make sure that it's in the right spot. So that's the only thing I don't show you in this video is if you have to address that gear.
All right. You're going to get all this cleaned up real good. All right. And you may have to put a little strap here to pull this back. But here's what we're going to need right here. You're going to need this part right there. And that is the gasket with a screen. And that's going to go in there. So one thing you want to make sure is this hole right here, it's going to get full of oil because all the oil that comes out of this when you're cleaning it up, you want to get all the oil out of there, but you really want to get all the oil out of all your bolt holes just to make sure that your bolts are tight when you do it. So I'm going to clean this bolt out right here, this hole. All right, so you can see I got the bolt cleaned out now. So now we're going to go ahead and put this gasket in here like that. You want to make sure that it goes in the channel here. Kind of wants to pop out. You may have to put a little bit of like a little bit of Sil Glide in the hole so it holds the gasket in place. I had it in place a second ago and I took it off to clean that hole. So you can see when I push this in, this wants to pop out. So sometimes you put like just a little dab of Sil Glide in the hole in the channel, then the gasket will stay. I'm gonna try that. So sometimes just a little bit of Sil Glide, you can see just that yellow stuff I got in there, will help hold the gasket where it needs to stay. This happens when gaskets want to roll out of their channel. So now let's try this again because the gasket will stick to the Sil Glide. I'm going to pull that down, push it down in its channel. And there we go. Now you can see it sitting where it needs to. You want to make sure you clean your bolts real good. All right, before we put the reservoir on, we need to put the cover on. So there's the gasket for the cover right there. It's going to look like that. So you're going to flip your cover upside down. You might want to put a little bit of Sil Glide in the channel here to get it to stick. Well, something like that. So now let's go ahead and try this one-handed. I'm going to put this on because we have to flip this over. All right, then just wipe off your Sil Glide and then make sure your gasket surface here is clean. Make sure you've cleaned out all inside. So I've got my cover on, and since there's no notches to hold this in place, I went ahead and I set my long bolts in place just to make sure that the holes don't get distorted. So you got 5 bolts there, 5 long bolts, and we're going to go ahead and just snug these down here, these 6 Torx. You're going to go ahead and slide your reservoir in and get your bolts started. And then we need to line up the 2 bolt holes down there for the fuel filter housing. You just want to run a couple bolts down just to snug this down so your gasket doesn't roll. And then we can maneuver this fuel filter housing and get these bolts in. And you can see right here, we have high pressure oil pump reservoir mounting bolts, 18 foot-pounds. And if you didn't take the exhaust back pressure sensor out, or if you didn't take this bracket off, you can just take the sensor out to get to this bolt right here for the fuel filter housing. I actually had taken it off because I resealed this cover here, and I forgot that the back pressure sensor was in the way because I've been waiting on parts. And so I just went and I just removed the back pressure sensor, and it gave me access. Now, the one good thing about removing this sensor is you can check to make sure it's not all sooted up. Last time this thing was in, found this sensor was completely sooted up and had to replace it. So now I'm going to put it back on here, and it's actually it's a standard size, but 26 millimeter will take it off. And then it's 9/16 to hold the line, to hold the bracket underneath. And don't forget to connect your sensors back that we disconnected. So in this case, I have this guy right here. Got to reconnect him. And I got another sensor in there. Actually, no, this goes to the wastegate solenoid. No, this one is right here. Yeah, don't be trying to plug a green one in there because it's wrong. There you go. Yeah, I have the intake I have the intake compressor housing here off because I'm replacing the boots and I'm cleaning up the valley and everything. But at this point, so we've got that connected. Don't forget to connect your switch, your back pressure sensor right there. And then anything else that you disconnected. And then it's a good idea at this point to go ahead and remove this plug and fill this up. If you don't, it's going to take you a really long time to get it started. So fill this up and make life easier for yourself. Last step of this high pressure pump reservoir is filling it up. So I just use I have a Mighty Vac here. And you put 1 quart of oil in here. Go ahead and pump it in. And the reason you're doing that is because if you don't, you have to crank it over longer for that oil to build up. So it's better to fill it up. It has extra oil. It'll start better. These things are already hard to start when you have, when your high pressure oil is changed. IPR comes out, reservoir comes off, anything like that. So go ahead and do this and then put your plug back in. You should be good to go. Ready to start it. Now that you've seen this video, this high pressure pump reservoir should not be that big of a deal. And don't be a dummy like me and don't drain the reservoir, sucking out the oil or filling it. I've never done that before until this job. I usually like to make a giant mess in the valley and then take forever to get it started. In this one, actually pretty happy that I did fill up the reservoir because by the time I got ready to start it, of course, the batteries had pulled down and it took forever to get started. So anyways, thanks for watching the video. Drop a comment down below and let me know if you've replaced one of these high pressure pump reservoirs or if you have one that's leaking. I'll see you guys next time.